Hello there. My name is Aisha Ahmed, and I would be taking you through a short discussion on flipped classrooms. So let's get into it right away. Who are these two individuals? Random pictures from Google, or is there something more? Of course, there is. This is Aaron Sands and Jonathan Bergman. They are the founders of Flip Learning. Interestingly, their teachers have spent more than 4 decades teaching chemistry. They say, Aaron as well as Jonathan, they say that as they practice and as they were teaching all of these years, they realized that the classrooms are reduced to only standing in front of the students and going on talking and talking and talking. And Bergman, he describes it as yakking in front of the students. So together, amidst their conversations and discussions, they came up with the idea of a flipped classroom. So what is flipped learning or what is a flipped classroom? Let's hear it from the founders themselves. They say that flipped learning occurs when we move direct instruction from the group learning space into the individual learning space. Now, that somehow looks like a definition pulled off some textbooks. So let's try to look at it in a simpler way. I'm sure all of us are well aware of how traditional classrooms look like, right? And this is a perfect example of that, wherein the teacher's role is basically the sage or the stage, which is commonly, of course, known as the lecture method. What's the result? Bored students, physically present, mentally absent. Cut to a flipped classroom now. Here, the teacher's role is basically to be a guide on the side, like we refer to it as facilitators. And the result are happy, engaged students who actually learn and they are involved in the classroom. So basically, what we do is in a traditional and a flipped classroom. So in a traditional classroom, from the lecture today, we move to activity today in a flipped classroom. So then what about the content? What about the lecture that has to be taught? That's already covered before the students step into the classroom, right? So that's basically the simplest explanation of flipped learning, but that's not the point over here. The question is, why should I even flip my classroom? And I could go on a pedagogical spree now and put on a whole set of bullet points, but let's try something different. The Bloom's taxonomy. Now, I'm sure you must be thinking, how is that different? It is if you flip it. In a traditional classroom, what do? The teachers start from the lower levels of the Bloom's hierarchy and they cover understanding, remembering. All of this is covered in the class, right? And then analyzing, applying, evaluating, creating. All of this goes back as homework. Or sometimes, if we have the time, then we are able to squeeze in an activity or two to achieve these levels of Bloom. But let's be very honest here. Most of the time, the priority is to complete the portion, and there is so much of stress on ensuring that students understand the topic that most often the higher level of blooms are ignored. And the result is, I'm sure you've seen these memes where questions that we do in the class are at a lower level. Homework questions, they increase in complexity. And then when you're talking about the exam, the question seems to be way out of league. Right? And our students at the end of the exam, they just know that. Now, we need to understand that this is how the students perceive the classrooms. They interpret the classrooms in this way because of obvious reasons, sometimes our major goal in the class is just to complete the topic, to deliver the understanding of the topic to the students rather than develop it further. And this main situation that all teachers face, this is where the flipped classroom, it really helps, right? Wherein we are inverting the whole taxonomy. So now, instead of spending those 20 valuable minutes explaining a topic and then due to lack of time not delving into its application-based questions, with flipped classroom now, you have the complete 20 minutes in hand to apply, analyze, create, evaluate. You can do all of that, right? So our students now, they don't just have the information that they could have read off someplace or they would have watched it on YouTube. But now we have students who, with that knowledge already with them, they are equipped with that knowledge. They're learning how to literally dissect it and apply it in multiple scenarios. And to further drive the point home, here is an exemplar of the time breakup in each type of class, wherein in a traditional classroom, we get, say, 10 minutes of time, or probably it goes back home, wherein the students are having this guided practice going on in the class, as compared to a flipped classroom, wherein you can actually spend the entire 35 minutes guiding and helping the students understand the topic better by applying it, by analyzing it, and going higher up the Bloom's taxonomy. And also, most times we have students, they're missing classes, practice session, events, competition, absences, or maybe they are just slow learners. They don't grasp as quickly as an average person would do. So there's so much going on behind those faces that sit in our classroom staring at us. As an educator, how am I reaching out to them? Right? At some point, we all must have felt that helplessness, that I want to help a student, but I'm not able to because of constraints, time constraints, availability, and so on and so forth. Because the explanations that are done in the classroom, they are lost in time, lost into the walls of the classroom. All of these issues can definitely be conquered by flipped learning. Right? So here comes a big question then. How can I flip my classroom? Step one, if through a flipped classroom we are thinking that it is less work, it can be a substitute for teaching, then we're mistaken because it does take a good amount of planning to have a flipped classroom ready, right? When we start our planning and we have to create our context, what topics do I want to flip? Why do I wish to flip this particular topic? Which objectives do I wish to cover with the strategy, right? And then we also need to decide what the goal is, the success criteria, basically. All of this is in the planning stage. Then we move forward to step two, wherein all the planning is done, and now it's time wherein I'm going to execute my plan. My understanding and remembering tiers of the hierarchy of the Bloom's taxonomy, which typically I would deliver in the class now, would be delivered through a video outside of class, right? And this could be our own created video, which allows us to actually customize it as per our needs, or we can look through the internet to find something that satisfies our learning outcomes. And I feel that this is where most educators, they feel intimidated, recording one's own class. And with the digital age that we are in now, this is something easily doable. In fact, this very session that you're watching right now is just recorded on Zoom with a simple PowerPoint presentation. So we don't even need fancy screen recorders because honestly, recording one's own videos is more of good quality because now we know exactly what our class has to achieve and we are delivering our topic in that particular way rather than picking up another video from YouTube or any other platform that's available. So in this step, the student is watching the lesson offline, that is off class, and the entire 20 minutes in your lesson plan that is dedicated for the delivery of a lesson, be it in bits or as a whole, all of that now is done prior to the student coming to your class. So that frees up 20 minutes of your class time to do what? And this is the best part and the fun part, I would say, because the sky is the limit over here. You can have an entire array of activities, lower order, higher order, middle order, spatial, non-spatial, verbal, collaboration, individualized, anything and everything. The possibilities here are endless. The interactions are productive. The student learning is exponential because no student is dozing off. All of them are actively learning because they no longer have to listen to us talking to them in front of the class. And second, the most important point over here is they have the knowledge to do that activity that is planned out for them. They are an active member now contributing to the group discussion because they have the time. When we gave them the video, they have the time to pause the video, listen to it again and again, understand it, and then proceed. So that when a collaboration activity is in progress, they too become a contributing member, right? And that's enough boost for them to enhance their learning. And the best part over here, and that's the icing on the cake, you can make groups that are data oriented. You can assign tasks accordingly. Differentiation is also taken care of. We talk about hitting two birds with one stone. We are hitting multiple birds with one stone over here. And about the benefits of flipped learning. Well, let's not even get started on it. There's so many of them if it's planned the right way. Teachers can literally float around the class, catering to the needs of that shy, quiet student or the student who is too scared to say anything, thinking that maybe his or her peers will laugh at them. All of this is taken care of through flipped learning. And not to forget, if even if we are absent, the learning is still happening, right? So, all of that glorifying talk for flipped classroom, I get it, you get it, but does it really work? Where's the evidence? Let's see. So here we see that the impact on the students who have been through the process of flipped learning, you can see how their attitude to learning is increasing and how their reports on the test they keep on increasing. And in fact, a teacher had in her study on the flipped learning, she had plotted the grades of the students in a traditional classroom and a flipped classroom, and we can clearly see how the flipped classroom grades are exponentially increasing over time. And also, not to forget how teachers are very well satisfied with the learning that's going on in the classroom and they see good progress. So, happy students, happy teachers, great learning is going on. So that was an extremely minuscule part of the whole world of flipped learning, about which you can directly hear from the founders, Aaron and Jonathan, who they have written a very short and easy to understand. It's just 123 pages. This book is on flipped learning. It's called Flip Your Classroom. And if you're not a fan of reading, then there's a set of recorded videos by the duo as well, which you can watch and understand, wherein they break it up in there's a very short playlist of videos, but that will help you understand how the process is. So with all of these benefits and improved student learning, there is only one question that is left to be answered. Are you ready to flip?